And Moses joined me on the desk for our first sports hit, and some big news involving the AJHL, and it has to do with player restrictions.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, the league is heading into its 50th year, so some news from that is good. Some other changes, a little mixed reviews. A lot of teams, of course, supporting it. But the annual general meeting was held over the weekend, and player restrictions was the #1 thing, as well as the new import rule.
The Alberta Junior Hockey League has limited the influx of CHL players allowed to play in the AJHL. Starting next season, only 4 players with 41 games or more experience in either the Quebec, Ontario, or Western leagues will be allowed to play for each club. Lloydminster Bobcats head coach and general manager Gary Van Herway says this will close the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
It is going to even the field because some teams just aren't able to compete, and you know, the major junior players are coming from usually bigger, more financially secure programs, business-like programs, and when they do return to the level below, they want to create the best opportunity they can.
I think there was actually only 3 teams over that number currently this past season, and I think 2 were at 4. So these restrictions occur across Canada. I know in the BCHL as well as the CCHL they have similar restrictions, which are actually stronger.
There's also change to the import rule across junior hockey. The Canadian Junior Hockey League announced that all Canadians will be considered non-imports. Before, the rule stated that non-imports were those born in that particular province's league, which means teams could have a number of players from across the country, potentially allowing bigger clubs from BC and elsewhere to pluck the top Alberta talent. Although Bartoshik says there are some restrictions.
As long as the player still has midget eligibility, they can't cross provincial borders. So, for instance, if there's a player in Saskatchewan that still can play midget hockey in Saskatchewan, he can't leave the province until that eligibility is up.
If anybody really prospers, it's the BC Hockey League, because it now entitles some of those teams that do bring in a lot of imports to bring in all of the Canadian players from outside their border and have them as non-imports, which would allow them to pick up another 7 players that could come from North American cities in the U.S.
The league will add stricter sanctions for payment of players, but Van Herway says the idea is noble but won't be effective.
If we can hold true to that and it's not just a perception, then obviously it does level the playing fields and keeps it even for everybody. But like you said, creativity is going to come into this, and probably more so than it ever has.
The season will begin on September the 6th. Let's move on to baseball. The Lloydminster Juniors are off to a good start after blanking the Border City Blue Jays behind some solid pitching from Stephen Lodish. Against the Lloyd Midgets last night, it was Stephen's brother Evan who got the nod. To the 4th, Midgets were up 2-0 on 200 runs. Lodish finding the strike zone, keeping his team in this one. Not to be outdone, his opposite number, Blake Robertson. He'll get Ryan Fechter swinging. Then after loading the bases, Robertson gets out of the jam by getting Brett Kustaski to pop up to center, ending the threat. Lodish in the zone, striking out, well, as you see there, getting his 5th strikeout of the evening. Next batter, he'll snag the comebacker. Lodish does get some help in the top of 7. Runners in scoring position. Reed Flash lays a bunt. Matt Nielsen throws it wide. 2 junior runs come in to score. Flash moves to 3rd on the error. Next batter, Kustaski with a shot to right field. The sacrifice fly will score Flash. That will be the go-ahead run. Juniors come from behind to win it 4-2.
Everybody kind of underrates the midget team. They think it's easy win, but these kids are a great team. They can hit the ball, they pitched well, and yeah, they sure surprised us, and they surprised the Twins last week. They're going to be good for a few years.
The major part of the game was there. We're just screwing up the small things, and then by the end of it, we kind of got our feet under ourselves. Weren't missing the smaller ones, and eventually, I don't know, the hits came together.
The Midwest Expos look to make it back-to-back wins after last night's 3-2 victory over Standard Hill. They will play at the Legion Ballpark tonight at 6:30 against the St. Walburg Reds. The other contest tonight has the North Battleford Beavers visiting Unity to face the Cardinals.